right, welcome everybody. John, it is a pleasure to be with you. David, it is a pleasure to be with you. And as folks are coming in to the from the waiting room, let's start greeting everybody. Thank you guys all very much for joining us. And unfortunately, one of our panelists, Brian, had an emergency shortly before starting the show, so he's not with us. So today we're going to have to just put up with the fact that it's 3 in a forum.
3 in a forum, that's right, yeah.
Okay, right. So we certainly will miss him, and we plan to do some future ones and have him more, because his segment was very interesting and had a lot of really good stuff. We don't want to steal his thunder. So, Ryan, we have you in our thoughts and prayers, and everybody, we appreciate you guys with the same. All right, so welcome everybody to our forum. This is 4 in a forum, and let me introduce you. My name is Maurice Velasquez, and we have here as our panelist David Day from the Day Group. David, say hello to everybody.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. Exciting to be here and be a part of this.
Yes, and John Sherk.
Hello, everybody. Excited to be here as well.
Yes, good to be with you guys. All right, we're going to give you guys a real quick 10, 15, 20-second introduction about each other, and then we'll tell you more about how we're going to do the show. Maurice, president and founder of Team Real World. We're a business coach firm. We specialize in helping leaders and managers align, build a strong leadership team, and help create a very thriving team culture. All right, David, tell us about yourself.
Well, I've owned and operated the Day Group advertising for over 25 years, but I'm a business coach, an executive coach, but I specialize in helping business leaders and business owners grow their business through developing cultures and really solid, sound marketing principles. We need ROI from our marketing, and there's more confusion out there than ever, and I'm here to help kind of simplify things for business owners.
John.
I am the president and owner of John P. Sherk Consulting, which is a consulting firm that focuses on operations management, primarily in companies that have technical or highly skilled frontline work.
All right.
So that,
That's perfect. Okay, good. And so for our final pitch for each other, guys, those of you listening, if this is of any help and you find any of us helpful, please stay in touch with us. Hire any one of these guys. I would trust these guys with my business. I have trusted these guys many times with my business, and just kudos and recommend them all. And so reach out to them and see how they can help you out. All right.
Okay, so we want to let you know, if you would take let me get my cell phone here. If you want to take a selfie of you attending this webinar and posting it online with a hashtag 4 in a forum, you could win a gift card to a local eatery. And we'd love to do that. We think it would be a lot of fun. It'll help us. It'll help you. It's, it's free, cheap, and easy. So
yeah, that'd be great. You can ask questions throughout it. In the Zoom panel, you can either raise your hand or you can click on chat or questions and answers and enter your questions. We are going to open the microphone up as we talk. This is kind of like radio, like talk radio. You're going to hear a lot of conversation. This isn't going to be a formal presentation. We're going to divide it up into 3 segments. Each one of us is going to grab a segment. About 10, 11, 12 minutes each. The rest of us are going to chime in, ask questions, challenge each other. And if any of you want the microphone, just raise your hand and jump in. All right, so let's dive in. The topic, how to pivot, how to survive this COVID-19 world, and how to come out stronger. It's all about pivoting. It's all about reinventing ourselves. It's all about taking advantage in a good way of the situation that we have. And what are some things we're seeing that our clients are doing really well? What are some things that we're seeing them not do really well? Because this is a very shocking, all of a sudden change that we've all had to do. And so some clients were better at it than others. What are things that are working, not working? What are we learning also from this, not only for our own firms, but from our clients? There's some things that they're doing that's like, wow, that's pretty cool. So we're also learning through this. And then what are some things that we're telling them? So take advantage of it, apply it to your business, and again, ask questions and interact with us. All right, so we're going to start off with John. John, thank you very much for coming on board. This is the beginning of segment number 1. Okay. Of course, I got to introduce you with a little music. I mean, just like so. When John talks, it's all right. All right, John, start us off.
Okay, so we're talking about pivoting. So let's just clarify what that means first. We're not talking about emotional resilience. That's another piece of the puzzle. What we're talking about when we talk about pivoting is saying, at this time, how do we go on offense instead of defense and reconsider maybe our business model, reconsider what changes can we make so that we can take advantage of what's going on and not just be passive and feel the waves of fear and concern.
Okay.
So then that begs the question, what changes to make? I work with a lot of smaller businesses. I'm talking about less than $10 million, 50 people or less. A lot of very small businesses, like 10 people or less, they have a tendency, because business is very relationship driven, they have a tendency to form good relationships with the customer base and then expand what they offer to that customer base instead of continuing to acquire new customers. And the net effect of that is it waters down who they are and what they do, right? And so their product line looks like a patchwork quilt. And so that it becomes very difficult then for them to receive referrals, or because it becomes a much broader product offering, and that slowly becomes a commodity product offering over time, where they're just offering things because they got asked by the customer to also do this, right? So, and ultimately, it puts a lot of pressure then on usually the owner to be the product himself or herself, because they're at the center of everything in that scenario.
They have to come out in the front and show their face. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, and they have to be tied to everything that's being delivered because they're the ones with the relationship and so on. So really what is needed is kind of the opposite. As you pivot, I'm strongly encouraging all of my customers to get more narrow, not more broad. And I'll give you an example. Let's say we had a payroll company. Okay, everybody uses these things. If you're just doing general payroll, you're really only going to compete on price, because it's a standard service. And if you can go out there and to convince me to go through the hassle of changing a payroll service, you're going to have to show me something special. It's usually going to be half of what I pay now.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So on the other hand, what I'm encouraging, let's take that same scenario and say a payroll company that is only servicing parents with nannies, and they have to compensate the nanny. Okay, that feels very narrow. Okay, but this is an actual example of a company that was started 20 years ago by a woman named Stephanie Breedlove, and she recently sold that company for $54 million.
Well, you're talking about very similar. Look, I went 2 weeks ago to a national conference similar to this, and they're very much sounding the same message, John. This gal took her business and basically had to cut it in half and narrowed it. Okay, rebranded herself, and the change with the impact was astronomical. She said $12 million, whereas before she was making $90,000 a year. So that's what you're saying, right? First of all, be proactive and get narrow, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So on the proactive, John, I'm hearing a lot of firms say, and a lot of companies say things like, look, I want to get my word out, but I just don't want to be a pest. I mean, I know now we have to use a lot of e-blasting, but I just don't want to be a pest. I don't want to come across as, man, now I've got an email from this people once a week, or, what I'm saying? I'm just going to back off because I don't want to. What's your thoughts on that? Is that, what I'm saying? Because that hits on the proactive side, right? As opposed to being passive.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, if it's okay, the title of this segment is these 7 questions that you have to ask if you're going to pivot. And my answer to that is the first question: ask yourself, what problem is your business trying to solve? Because if you're offering to solve a problem, no one's disappointed to hear from you, right? If you're trying to solve the wrong problem, they may get tired of hearing from you. But if you're clear with what problem is it I'm trying to solve, and they have that problem, they want to hear from you.
Got it. Yeah. And if they don't hear from you, they're going to hear from somebody else.
Correct.
Right.
So you're kind of saying stay in your DNA, even when you pivot, kind of stay in that area of where you're really an expert, and keep the focus relatively narrow, so you're not all over the map trying to become somebody you're not. And I think that's really valuable. I've got clients that are all my clients. They're all looking to pivot in some way, and I've been encouraging them. I even wrote a blog post about that. Kind of stay in your DNA. Stay with what you're good at. If you're in food service, if you had a restaurant. I use the example of Jada Cody, government taco shut down, but now he's smoking briskets in his backyard and selling those to keep his employees, surviving during this COVID crisis thing. So that's a nice pivot. He knows food. He's a great chef. That's the way to do it. That's a great example of how.
Yeah,
So
go ahead. Now is not the time, for example, to hear, whatever. I can't think of a good example. People are buying exercise equipment, right? Pendleton stock is up 13% since the virus, right? So, but if that's not what you do, now is not the time to get into that business, right? Now is the time to create a more narrow focus of what it is you do and sell that in a much more specific way to a much smaller group of people.
Got it. Okay. So good. Now, you said you had 7 key questions that we should be asking ourselves. Let's tackle those.
Okay. So the first one I already gave. What problem is your business trying to solve? That's the first one.
Okay.
Second one, who is most affected by this problem? Right? We're narrowing down our market. Number 3, what does your company do to solve this problem? Number 4, what gives you an enduring competitive advantage? And what I mean by that is, what is it? Do you have a unique delivery system? There's probably another whole one of these we could do just on competitive advantage.
Just on the uniqueness value, right?
Yeah, there's what makes you somehow unique, or somehow you have an edge over the competition. Number 5, what does the world look like when you've solved this problem? Okay. And that's an important one. Okay,
it's good. It's good.
Number 6, what will you know? How will you know you've solved the problem? And number 7, how will you make money?
Okay, so let me mention everybody on the line. John has a PowerPoint, and you have this on a 1-pager as well, right, John?
Yep. Yeah. Anybody, if you want to, if it's okay to reach out to me, or
absolutely.
Yeah. And John at johnpsherk.com. Just reach out to me, and
That's right. And then everybody, all of us have our notes. We're going to send to you guys a PDF or links to files. So if you're busy writing, or right now you're listening somewhere you can't write, don't worry about it. We'll get this information to you. So if you missed all this, or you didn't catch all this, don't worry about it. Just enjoy the webinar and enjoy the conversation. All right. So John, the unique value, that's always a pressing thing, but right now it's about really coming to terms with making those tough decisions. It's really define for yourself who you are, what is it that you offer. I like the way you put it. What does the world look like if it becomes better? And making the tough decisions to say this particular project over here that we've been wanting to do, it's been secondary, or it's kind of, long term, just you may need to put it on pause. You may just need to say, you know what, or this other project that's important, but right now it's not vital. Right now we need to stick with what's vital, what's going to make money, what's going to keep our employees, what's going to keep our client, and just focusing on what's going to help us make money. Am I in the right direction?
Sure. I can give you an example from my own business.
Please do.
I'm myself. I'm fairly narrowly focused already, but over the next 6 months, I'm doing nothing except succession planning for air conditioning companies. That's
really it. Okay.
Nothing else.
Very good. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Okay.
That's a pretty narrow focus.
That is. This has to. I will tell you, for myself, this has made me eliminate almost 1/3 of my product offerings entirely. It's impacted me a lot. And some of them are just dear to me. Both of y'all know me from a while back. You would be surprised. It's like, wow, he's not doing that, because I've had to make the tough decisions of saying, you know what, the market's shifted on me. And I'm going to have to let go of some things that were pet projects, or that were very good projects that were making money, but they're not the dog that wags the tail. They were just tail. It was tail. You know what I'm saying? And it's coming to terms with the fact that you just have to be bold enough to say, you know what, I'm just going to get lean and mean on it. And that's a tough issue. David, I think I jumped in. Were you going to say something?
I was just going to comment about John's the pivot is so specific. I think that's really terrific. For me, I'm in the communications business. I help clients communicate messages all day long, and whether that's an executive to his own team and building culture, or whether that's a company to the masses with advertising, or whether it's targeted specifically to specific segments or groups, that has changed for me a little bit. I wouldn't say that I've had to undergo a full-blown pivot, but I am refocusing a little bit on how to help my clients communicate what they're going through. And we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but a lot of that authenticity and transparency is really critical right now. And if we're going to stay in the good graces of our client base, then we need to tell the truth, and we need to be very transparent with them about what's going on, because we've heard this 1,000 times. We'll hear it a million more times. We're all in this together.
Sure.
If anybody tells you differently, they're just trying to sell something.
Yeah,
So,
John, anyone in particular you want to expound more on? If you don't, the last one, the last one is I think very important. I think all of them are, but it's question number 7.
Oh yeah, how are you going to make money? I mean, that's
Yeah.
This is.
Right now I've gotten a lot into the legal sector, and I'm helping with and attorneys make money two ways: phone calls coming in, and then increasing the value of their cases. Well, guess what? No one's driving now.
Yeah, you're talking about accident.
Injury attorneys, injury attorneys. Yeah, and so there's no accidents happening. Okay,
Yeah.
So think of the pivoting they're all having to do, and saying,
Sure.
all right, well, how do we make money when there's absolutely nobody on the road? And what's interesting is those firms throughout the country that are being very good about asking that question, okay, and having those tough conversations with their paralegals, with their partners, with their intake teams, and then just getting everybody's input and realizing we've got to make money one way or the other. Okay, but one of the options is gone. So just not what I'm learning is don't be afraid to invite your team members into that discussion. Okay, because the more that your entire team joins you, the executives, into the how we're going to make money, right?
Oh, yes.
That's where a lot of the innovation comes in. Instead of you making the decisions by yourself in an empty echo chamber.
And a lot of those ideas have been around for a while. We've just never taken the time to think through them. A team member might have an idea. We didn't have the time or the energy or maybe the funds to think through that and develop that. Well, maybe now is the perfect time to do that.
Sure. Well, I'll add to that as it's very important to get feedback from the front line of your company when you're doing this, for many reasons. One of them being that they have to be engaged with it when it comes time. But also, their ideas are not like our ideas. They don't have the scale. They don't have the checkbook. And so what they come up with is often a more effective, cheaper solution to a problem because if you have an executive who's got a 7-figure budget, they scale problems to the size of this whole company, and they spend money unnecessarily to solve problems in a big gesture.
Right.
Because that's the function of their role.
Right.
Whereas a frontliner may have a $20 solution, and somebody else is going to spend $6 million on something that doesn't have to happen.
And somewhere down the chain of command, that idea got shut down. Oh, that's not going to work. Oh, that's not going to work.
Right.
And yet all the frontliners in that department know, no, that is the answer.
Right.
And it doesn't get stifled there. Yeah, that's a very good point. Very good point. All right, so we're coming to the end of this one thing. Any closing thoughts, John, or anything you'd want to emphasize, or David, anything you want to ask? For those of you that are attending, if you want to join in the conversation, ask John any specific questions about the 7 questions that he brought up, about pivoting, about getting narrow, please chime in, raise your hand, we'll let you in. John, floor is yours.
Yeah, I'd just say don't leave your domain of expertise, but get very narrow and very specific and sell one thing to a smaller group of people you're going to more easily get referrals and more easily compete as they know you for that.
Okay. All right, very good.
That's good.
David, any questions?
Nope, I'm good. Good stuff, John.
Thank you.
All right. Good. Don't forget, take your picture. That's great. All right, good. Guys, we're going into segment number 2, and I want to take this one. So the topic is what are the key strategies to build inside your firm, your organization, in order to make the pivoting possible and last long. So a lot of the breakdown happens in that what I've seen in my clients, okay, is they've all had to is basically just do what John's been asking about. How do we define ourselves as to what we're going to offer, what we're going to do? Let's shave some areas. All right, but then what they have been doing is looking at themselves internally and how do we make sure the behind the scenes inner working between departments and solving problems and making sure we keep our teams engaged. Make sure that's working. Because if the framework behind the scenes doesn't stand, then the front end stuff that John's been telling us will fall apart real fast if we can't get teams to interact with each other very well. So one of the things As a matter of fact, I had early on, like 2 days into the announcement that we were all supposed to go home, and one client I work with, they pivoted extremely fast. It took them 3 days to send everybody home, get everybody on webcams. They trained everybody so well. I mean, to me, it was like a case study, fantastic. All right. And they got things up going so that by the third day, they all started feeling the impact of having shifted really well. Okay. Then the executives started facing, and the middle manager started facing this issue. So what do we do?
Yeah.
What do we do to make sure this stays going? Okay.
Right.
And so what I told them, and I've been telling every client, is what I want to share with you guys, and PPPC. Okay. The letter P, the letter P, the letter P, and the letter C. All right. So it's to make it easy. First of all, people and your people leaders. Secondly, productivity. Third, problems. C, ramp up your communication. Okay. And so, man, they not only took notes within a day, they applied it. Week later, they were noticing that it was tightening things up. And here's what I meant by that is the first one in the people and the people leaders is we have to make sure that everyone's connected, because we're all remote. Okay. It's very easy for people to slip through the cracks. So grab your org chart. Okay, or grab whatever looks like your org chart, or just grab a whiteboard and make a list of everybody. Okay, and answer this question. Okay, does everybody know who to talk to about anything at least one time during the week? Okay.
Wow. One time during the week.
That's it.
I would say once a day almost.
Well, what happens is you'll notice is that's what eventually becomes in some segments of your business.
Yeah.
Because of the speed of things. But you see, if I know that you're the person I'm going to talk to and you're the person that's going to help me, then I don't have to chase somebody.
Right.
Right. Because I know that I've got something I got to throw at somebody, and all I have is a list of phone numbers. Half of us are working from home. Half of them is at the office. Some of them are running around. I don't have time to go chase who it is I can connect with.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
and I want to say this too, Maurice, if I may interrupt you.
Go ahead.
I love the idea that we are leaders of people.
Right.
And not just company leaders, because it personalizes everything. And that's really what we're talking about, is how people are dealing with this on a personal level so that they can perform from a business standpoint. But our businesses, to a large degree, exist because of people, and not just because those are our producers and productivity, but because that's our mission. You know, a lot of us have that in our mission, is to help people, to add to the standard of living for people, whatever it might be. But I love your point about first is people.
Yeah, first is people. And the phraseology I've been using in the last 6 months is people leaders. Okay. It's not about people development, because that just focuses on developing your people. Okay. But we want to have people leaders. Every group of people needs a team leader. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so the formula is this: maximum of 9, at least 1. Maximum of 9, at least 1. That's your formula.
9 to 1 people?
9 to 1 people. If anybody's having to check up on, or be that contact person, or be their supervisor, whether official, unofficial, whatever. For right now, those lines of communication in org charts have become very fluid. And so I had one client ask me, how strict do we stick to it? I said, no, you can. Right now, it has to be very fluid. Okay. Yeah. So just make sure that no one is the direct contact or the touch point for more than 9 people. Okay.
Is that because it's just not possible bandwidth wise?
It literally is not possible.
Yeah.
Okay. The way I learned it, when I had 250 employees out there in the field, okay, my COO sat me down and said, all right. And he said, Maurice, no more than 9, at least 1. And we broke up the teams so that to make sure no one had more than 9, because capacity, I can't do my job. I can't roll up my sleeves and do what I need to do and then go help 12 people, because my intake department has 15 people, or my engineering group has 15 people. You see what I'm saying? And so if I'm an executive, or I'm one of the directors, and I know that my supervisor has 12 people, 13 people that report to him or her, that person is going to let others slip through the cracks.
So what do you say to people? And I know you probably got other points here.
It's
but what
okay.
do
I mean, if
you
this
the
helps,
person
this
that's
helps.
listening right now, somebody's watching us right now, and they're saying, gosh, I'm supposed to be contacting 15 people every week and filing a report based on the 15 people that are under me
Right.
every week. How do I handle that? Am I supposed to just go to my boss and say, I can only do 9 because Maurice said so?
Well, no, I think the best thing to do is grab a copy of this webinar, invite your executive team to watch it, and say, guys, what do y'all think? And don't surprise anybody with it. But look, even more practical, if I got 12 people, okay, then I would bet that within those 12, there's probably 1 or 2 that are really the team leaders and better at it than I am.
Yeah.
Yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I mean by no more than 9, and at least look for at least 1 or 2 within your team that are already by default the one they talk to anyway because they don't like to talk with you. Okay, so think about the person that always comes to your office and says, "Hey, look, Maurice, can I talk with you?" Yeah, what you got? Well, look, I'm just saying, the word on the street is, I just that person right there is the person most of us want to get out of our office because we consider them gossipers. Okay, and we ask them this sabotaging question. Ready? Who said that? Who said that? That's the worst thing you can do. That person is showing the greatest team leadership skills by coming to tell you what's really going on. Okay? Don't make them have to disclose their sources, and don't make them, well, let's go talk to them. No, I got this. And for the most part, any group, look, it's just a mystery. I mean, any group of 3 already has a team leader in that group of 3. Work with that team leader and watch that group of 3 get engaged. Okay, you got a group of 5. You probably have 2 that run the rooster, right? You know what I'm saying? They run the chicken hen. Okay. Tap into that 1 or 2, and you got the team. And so every group of 9. Okay, if you have a group of 12, look for your 1 or 2 that are already your team members, and split your team. Look, I'll take 6, you take 3, or I'll take 5, you take 4, so that I don't have to go meet with 12 people. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And then I just make sure that I'm talking to my 5, you're talking to your 3 or your 4, and then before we put our report together, you and me put our report together, and we send it up and let the folks above us or to the side of us what the issues and what the problems are.
I don't want to short circuit that because that's good.
No, go ahead.
But you've got 2 more P's in a C to get to. I want to make sure you get that.
Well, the funny thing is they're also intertwined. Let me explain to you. Okay, so the first one's people leaders. The second P is productivity. Okay, make sure that every one of your team members, it doesn't matter if it's the janitor, okay, at the head of the org chart, down to your CEO at the bottom of your, you notice how I did that? Okay. All right. It doesn't matter whether you're CEOs, whether it's a part-timer, whether it's a vendor, make sure everyone knows what their weekly goals are. Okay. That's your productivity. You have to make sure. Yeah, they know their job. Well, go talk with them and just make sure, look, we know that your goals for each week are what? And so they're either recurring goals or they are goals that you have to revisit, and just make sure that that point of contact person is helping them in whatever they need help to meet those goals. And the folks that the frontliners who don't need a call every day because they're high D, high C individuals, and look, get out of my face, just talk to me once a week, then recognize the fact they don't need a call. Okay. But those personalities that are more high I, high S, that definitely feed and produce better because there's social interaction, well, then talk with them more.
Yeah. Can I jump in on that, Mo?
Absolutely.
Just to back that up. Go ahead. We're all consultants, so it's kind of funny. We're all having the same experience with our own clients in different ways. And I've been swimming in remote work to pivot to remote work for a month with all my clients. And so I've been kind of dug into some of the research around the engagement piece and remote working.
Yeah.
And the 3 big things, Gallup does a lot of this stuff. And the 3 big things that Gallup is encouraging are clear, make your expectations razor clear. Just what you just described.
I mean, over-communicated, overwrite metrics, right, John?
Only 50% of U.S. workers strongly agree with the statement, I know what is expected of me at work. Only 50%. And that's before the virus.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Number 2, review with each person at home. Do you have everything you need?
Tools.
Clarify the question. Am I supposed to buy my own printer? How does all this stuff work at home?
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Make sure they have the highest source of job stress comes from engaged workers that don't have materials they need to do the work.
Yeah, don't,
Okay?
John, don't let me derail you. We helped in the middle of everybody going home. We helped a very large nonprofit in town hire a VP of development, sales, basically. Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic hire. In the middle of all the chaos, we were able to onboard somebody. They hit the ground running so fast, okay? Within a matter of 3 weeks, of course, I stayed in contact with her, and there was some frustration, lots of frustration as I talked with her. And guess what the issue was? My printer right here, it's not working. Okay. And I can't seem to figure out who is going to make this printer work. And I'm sitting there going, wait a minute, how much of this has stopped your work already? He says, Maurice, I need my printer. Okay. When I'm like, well, let's go. She didn't know who to talk to. So we went up, we moved around, we called people, we went to the CEO and said, sorry to have to bother you. Printer's not working, and he's like, well, here, you gave me the credit card and said, do it, purchase it. Use it. And so if you need it, you need it, but she didn't know who to go to. She didn't have a touch point, and her tools were not working. John, that's what you were saying, right?
Yep, just that exactly.
And
then the other thing was, for every remote worker, especially those who have pivoted to remote, literally keep a list with a checklist and make sure you specifically praise them for something they did each week. Once a week. Specifically as an engagement tactic. Yes.
The whole idea of reviewing people's performance once every 6 months is so archaic, and it is so counterproductive. Okay. Go ahead and keep your 6 months because it's good paperwork. Okay. But really, if you want to create a movement, okay, if you want to start a movement and take your company to the next level, especially in the midst of crisis, is rebuild the connection. That's the fourth point. Rebuild the communication and the connection. How are you doing in your work? Are you meeting your goals? Praise them regularly every week, no more than every 2 weeks, okay? And then my third C, which I don't think, David, don't you think I forgot, is help fix problems. Okay? Help fix problems. If I have 7 people that I'm touching bases on a regular basis, and we're all remote, and I have to chase somebody to help you get your Zoom, your web camera, your paperwork, your policy documents, your scanner, whatever it is. But all you had to do was call me, and I got a list of everything you need, and within a matter of day, 2 days, IT starts calling you and says, hey, man, we got a report that, and man, what's wrong with your scanner? Or what's this? Look, okay. You see what I'm saying? It's like, whoa, all I had to do was call Maurice. All I had to do was call my touch point person. Okay. So as an executive team, right now, the most important thing for your pivoting to work, like John is describing, is for behind the scenes structure to be standard and to get standardized. And that means you as owners, make sure every 9 people have at least one person to talk to on a regular basis, and that those team leaders are getting lists of what's happening out there, and they're not, quote, waiting for the next meeting. Okay. Meet with each other as fast and as often as possible for your people leaders to figure out what are the things they need to fix. If your team all of a sudden realizes that you have pivoted that way, and all the executives and all the leaders are focused on taking care of the frontliners, I'm telling you, you can't but succeed in whatever your pivoting looks like to the rest of the world. That's what's going to make your team extremely unique.
I love it.
Outstanding. Good stuff.
Yeah.
And on that, my notes here say I got to be quiet and I got to pass the floor over to somebody else.
Now that's really good stuff, Maurice. People, productivity, problem fixer, and communicate and connect.
Yeah, and communicate and connect. The only point I'll make is increase your communication. And I really don't care, and I don't want to discourage, okay, is increase your communication, even if you have to have a morning huddle with your leadership team and an afternoon checkout and then start why. Right now, the teams that are over communicating and fixing problems and staying that connected are the ones that are surviving the best, because they're keeping an eye and putting their thumb on the ground, putting their ear to the ground and feet to the fire.
Something I really love what you said is about praising people along the way. And John, you had some input on that too.
Yeah.
I heard once an old mentor of mine, I shouldn't call him old, he's not old, but a mentor of mine once told me, catch people doing something right.
Right.
Now we're so conditioned to catch people doing something wrong. And,
Right.
if we can catch people doing something right and call their attention to it and call others' attention to it,
Right.
that goes a long way.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of tools to be able to do that nowadays. You know?
All right, so let's move over to segment number 3. David, you're coming up, but we have to introduce you with a song.
Uh-oh, can't hear it.
There we
Oh,
go.
there we go.
John, I think we ought to
Why
make
do I
him
get
dance.
that?
I think we ought to make him dance or something. I think we ought to make him
I
dance.
think we
that-
can
what
be
that-
confident David is not going to
Yeah,
pivot
but
to
no,
become
how
a
do I get
professional
that?
dancer.
Before we do that, a word from our sponsors, okay? Everybody, name the name of your company and your website. Teamwear World, www.teamwearworld.com. David.
Thedaygroup.com. Thedaygroup.com.
And johnpshirk.com, John P. Shirk Consulting.
Perfect. And Brian, you can reach him at, I forgot his email. We'll get it to you guys, okay?
Is it
I don't have his email right now, okay? But it's Brian Aber Consulting, okay?
Right.
Yeah, all of us basically are sponsoring this. We're behind this to make this available free for you guys, and hopefully you guys are finding it helpful, all right? If you guys like this, give us your feedback. We are going to send you just a real short survey. Tell us what you liked, and one of the questions is, would you like for us to do it again? And then give us topics that you want to address. And depending on the feedback and how we're doing, then we'll either make it weekly, bi-weekly, hopefully it'll be helpful to you guys. Okay, so Dave, without much further ado, you have the floor. Good to have you on the board.
All right, I appreciate it. We're all asking a lot of very similar questions as business owners, business leaders. One of the top questions we're asking is, I think, how there's so much change going on. I got to manage this change, right?
Right.
We feel the responsibility to manage the change. And I think the first step that I've come to realize is I don't think we're ever going to be the same. There's
Agreed.
a lot of talk about
Agreed.
let's when things return to normal, or when
Right.
when this is over and we get back into our routine. Well, that's got some validity because there will be routine, but I don't think it'll ever be the same. I mean, there are some things that are permanently going to change, I think, in our world, in our marketplace, maybe even very close to us in our businesses,
David, I'm sorry to jump in so early in your segment, but
that's
every
great.
single one of our clients, and we have like 10 or 12 right now that we're actively working with, we're having that conversation. And every one of them is telling us that going back to normal is not what they consider normal anymore. They know that some things they're doing because they pivoted really well, that they're realizing that, whoa, we're good at some things we didn't think we were good at. And that has to become their new normal.
That's
and
right.
So
That's
I think that getting back to normal just simply means learn what you're doing now really well and keep pivoting and let your normal happen, right? I mean, don't go back to recreating because if you're found that you make some improvements, then go with the improvements.
That's right. I mean, we're trying to fight an uphill battle if we're going to resist change.
Right.
Change is here. It's coming. It's here. It's happening. It's happening right before our very eyes. It's the reality, and there's no going back. I mean, we will. I think we will return to some type of routine. Excuse me. I think we will return to some type of routine. I shouldn't be coughing in my. Sorry. But, fortunately, I'm by myself here.
We'll edit that from the video as bad examples.
But I think change, it's happening right before our very eyes. I think we got to embrace the change. And as a company owner, as a business leader, we have to look at what is changing in the marketplace. We'll have to look at what is changing in our employees' world.
Right.
We have to look at what is changing from a financial standpoint. Looking at the big picture, we have to accept the fact that tomorrow's not going to be the same as today.
Correct.
The day after that may be a little bit different. The day after that may be a little bit different. Eventually, we will get back into a rhythm. But right now is not that time. We don't have the answers yet. We're still going through the process of change. So with change brings about opportunity. We can either embrace this change or we can freak out and fight against it. And that's going to lead to failure. But embracing the change provides, I think, opportunity. We have some opportunity to look and see what's going on in the marketplace. What holes need to be filled? What needs are there that really match my skill set? Marketing 101 is find a need and fill it. And if we can find a need and fill that need, or find a desire or something that somebody wants and scratch that itch, if you will, then we're doing well, and we have a greater opportunity for success in the future. So that's the first thing I want to mention. I mean, just to give you an idea of some changes, I'll give you a quick example from a Gallup poll that was released this weekend. The Gallup poll said that by March 15th, on March the 15th, there were 31% of the American public working from home. And I thought that was really high. I was like, wow,
31%?
31% working from home. I thought that was like, wow, 31% of the American public is working from home. That was really high. You know what it is now? Take a guess, Maurice. What do you think it is now? As of April 20th, I think the poll was released. What is it?
I think I know this one.
I'm going to say 50 plus.
John, what do you think?
61.
62%. Exactly
62%.
doubled. Exactly doubled work from home in the last month.
Right. Right.
What we've done essentially, and just from that standpoint, what we've done is we've taken 5 to 8, maybe 10 years of business change and growth and development of our nation and squeezed it into about a 30 to 45 day time period.
Yeah. And let me dive in. I didn't realize it was that high. I didn't realize I was in the training and course development, people training market. Okay. Is of course been climbing, but the word's always been, remote training is never going to take over. Okay. In-house live training is going to be the way of the future, even if it's only 60%, but the last 60 days has proven that entirely wrong. And that sector, I'm in that sector. Okay.
Yeah.
It has been totally not wiped out, but totally radically redefined. And that's one of the changes I had to make, that I had to change a lot with that, because that world's probably not going to come back for a very long time.
But that also provides opportunity for somebody that can figure out a way to do more online training more effectively, right?
Well, I've had more people. I've had more people.
Type of training, the kind of. Yeah, and that doesn't necessarily mean that we have to become a training company. That just means that you at your workplace, how are you going to train your people? Can you continue to train your people and develop your people? As the workforce shrinks and contracts a little bit, at least for a time, people will take on new roles. We'll have valuable employees that once did just this. Now they're going to have to do this and this, maybe refocus and maybe, a little bit less of each, but they're going to take on their training needs to be a part of that, I would think. How are we going to go about doing that? I
have 2 clients that provide training for their clientele. Okay. And they've had to shift because of this issue. So now the questions they're asking is, okay, so when do we use YouTube? When do we use a system like Vimeo? When do we use something like Kajabi? Where do we put our online courses? When do we put our free stuff? See, those were projects that they were kind of saying, we'll do that later. Okay, now they're faced into it, and they've had to refigure their budget. Okay, where do we stick our videographer now? Okay, and do we need cartooning or not? Or do we so all those questions, again, it's being able to just recognize the pivot that's happened to you and learn to adjust, right?
Sure, absolutely. And not just that, we're talking about entire segments of our economy, entire segments of business is changing. If you're a hairdresser, a hairstylist, if you're a cosmetologist, if you're a dentist, if you do anything in the personal services realm, you're struggling. And that may be a change that is not going to go away. I mean, that change may continue in that direction. I think we're going to need dental health. I think we're going to need haircuts. So we're going to figure this out.
Yes.
But exactly how we figure it out, it's not just going to happen. We're going to have to take charge and control the way that the change takes place.
From an advertising,
through creativity and ideas.
So from an advertising marketing piece, is it especially, let's just say a hairdresser, okay, a dentist, okay.
Yeah.
Is it your message that says stay in front of people, let them know I'm still out here, okay?
Absolutely.
Come up with free sessions. I mean, you can't do a root canal online, but you can do something, right? I mean, I know of plastic surgeons who are actually doing consultations via Zoom. you know.
Right. Yeah.
Is
And hairstylists are doing that too. I mean, I suggested to a hairstylist friend of mine the other day, why don't you do haircuts online? Just give them instructions. She said, you know how impossible that is? And I said, somebody's going to do it.
Yeah.
And well, you don't have the right equipment.
well, and I hate to tell you this, but there's a guy on YouTube that has been doing that for 3 years, teaching guys
I know.
what gels to use,
Yeah.
how to comb their hair, and say, look, if your
Yeah,
hair is like this, here's how you comb your. And I mean, he figured
there's
this
a
out
whole
before
website
the
that was
need
launched
for it.
called. There was a whole website that was launched 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, called "So You Need a Haircut." So you think you need a
Right.
haircut?
So you need
like
a
that.
haircut.
And
All right, so
that's what they do. So
so
that's
would
a
it be
pivot.
so David, if I'm one of those companies, if our attendees or whoever's listening is saying, okay, yeah, it's great, David, but look, I have this type of company, I don't know how to pivot, I don't know how to take my marketing and advertising dollars, I need some of those ideas. Okay.
Right.
Can they call you and you could sit down with them and say, okay, look, here's what people
Sure.
in your segment are doing. Here's some of the folks that I've helped do this. Here's some ideas, and help them come up with some innovative ways on how to get unstuck. Would
Yes.
that be how they can come to you and say, help?
Yeah. Here's the little secret that that I'm just going to share with our audience here. As a coach, I know that I don't have the answer, but I know that you do, and I can help you discover that answer that you have within.
Sure,
You have
sure.
more knowledge about your industry than I ever will.
Right.
But I can ask you the right questions that help bring out ideas, and they'll be your ideas, not necessarily mine, but I can help you to get to the place where you're going, I had never thought about that. I had never tried that before. I have not considered that before. Creativity is the energy and the answer for change as we move forward.
That's
We're going
really
to
good.
have to be creative, and how John is shared earlier, great stuff about staying within your skill set. We're not talking about, if you're a hairdresser, go ahead and become a roofer. We're talking about if you're a hairstylist and you're out of work, how can you take that skill set and pivot that into something where you can make money? And I think that's a real key. And there's some
All right,
things.
so here's what one of our attendees.
Go ahead, John.
Go ahead, John. Go ahead. Here's what one of our attendees.
Well, I was just going to say, and let's take the hairstylist, for example. That it could be in how it's delivered, just what we're just talking about. Maybe you develop your own kind of mobile stylist or your mobile salon, and you're able to go specifically to, let's say, elderly people who can't get out of the house very well, and this becomes across the board. All you do every day is you go take care of their hair, and you're going to have recurring customers. They're going to want you however often. You can rebuild a whole business, and even if that just pivots you through this time, and you may decide, well, I don't only want to do that. That's okay. What we're talking about is creating a very narrow focus, because if you say how many hairstylists are out there, there's a bunch of them.
Yeah.
But if there's one, and your grandmother needs a haircut, who's getting the referral?
Right. All right. Well, what one of our attendees just posted, which is really a very good summary of this, is figure out how to provide value virtually.
Yeah,
think about what it is you're doing and remove the element of getting in the car and being present, and figure out what that looks like and say, well, maybe I can do that, or I can show them how to do it virtually, and then come back and watch them implement it. Okay. One of the ways I'm doing it with one client is I'm now having to teach everyone in their team how to use their personality report. So really, we are actually doing a session on Friday where they're going to bring their report and say, all right, got on page 5, this is how you use it. I'd never had to do that before. Okay. But now I'm having to teach them how to do it. But here's the key thing. We're recording that session. I'm sending that to them. They're going to be able to then take it and put it on a screen in each one of their teams. And then the team leaders and supervisors are the ones showing the video. You see, I'm thinking I should have been doing that a long time ago.
Yeah, and that's so true. What we're learning, I think, through this process is that we need to be doing things that we should have been doing all along. We need to start doing them now. And sometimes it takes a crisis to get us to do that. It's sort of like, we should have been living on a budget. Yeah,
that's right. Look at the comments of what one of our attendees, listeners just put. I don't want to call names because oftentimes people don't want their names to be called out. So I'm acknowledging your input. So, all right. So it says there, we advise. Here's what she said. We advised our salon to sell her products online as well as gift cards, so they have some income now.
Yeah. See, That's a great pivot. Another thing for a salon that I talked to, a very similar thing that you were talking about, Maurice, staying in front of them. I suggested videos. Go ahead and do some videos that you could do, maybe show people how to cut hair. You're like, well, I can't really do that because they have to have the right tools and all that. But what they did was this: they took my suggestions and then they started doing online videos about how to fix your hair a certain way.
Correct.
With just the tools you have in your bathroom.
Correct.
And they're doing these really good videos, and they're 2 minutes long, and they're very informative. They're actually fun to watch because the transformation is really cool. I was very impressed, and I think that's the kind of thing we're thinking about. So moving on from the hairstylist concept, and your business can be anything.
We're up into our last 10 minutes, so how are you as far as the rest of what you were going to say in your second?
All right. I want to go into a couple of points about marketing real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
So we're talking about change, but let's get down to marketing. Okay, so most of us that are thinking about how to market our companies through this crisis, we're dealing with one of two questions. One is, I don't want to talk about marketing because I'm going to try to figure out which of the 5 employees I have I need to lay off. And it's just really not time to talk about marketing. I don't want to start an ad campaign and then lay people off. That's just sort of hard reality. That's real. I truly believe we need to become good companies first and then market those companies. So if becoming a good company means you need to shrink right now, I totally understand that. Let's see if we can find ways that doesn't have to happen. But if it does, let's do it really, really well. And I think Maurice can help with that. I know John can. I can help with some concepts about how to downsize if you have to. But let's take care of that first.
The only comment I make there is the only comment I made, if it's okay, is start having those conversations with your team now.
Yeah.
Just let everyone know that, look, guys, you guys all know how tight it's going to be. We'll keep you guys updated once every 2 weeks and let you know, but just we're trying to keep the boat alive. Okay, so go ahead, Judd.
Right.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Right. So beyond that, we talked about this too, is opportunity. What opportunities do we have for marketers as a business owner, for marketing, as a business leader? Did you know that right now media usage is up 60%, but ad spending is down 40%?
Really?
And climbing. People are in a wait and see mode. Burrell Associates did that seminar that I was able to attend, put on by the Business Report. It was really good. And they interviewed 400 or 500 businesses, small businesses. And they came up with this data that said media usage is up 60% while spending is down. Advertising spending is down 40%. So that means opportunity. Share of voice when you advertise is much greater now. The share of voice that you have compared to all other advertisers is way up. I have a client right now that just jumped right on outdoor billboards and radio, 2 traditional advertising formats, because he knows he can be king of the mountain. So he's jumping in there quickly. Now, he's got the funds to do that. He's not in the situation that some of us are in. He's in the HVAC business, John, so you'd appreciate that. Okay. But that's an example of taking advantage of an opportunity. And here's a couple of reasons why that's important. When we market ourselves, whatever we do, and I'm not suggesting everybody go out and buy advertising right now. What I'm saying is when you do, you'll take leaps and bounds. You'll become leaps and bounds ahead of where you were before this crisis started. Mm-hmm. The data shows that all the way back to the Great Depression, ever since we've been tracking this. In a down economy, when you advertise and market yourself through that, when we come out of it, when we come in through the hardest part of it, you have taken giant leaps forward in the minds of your customers. Why? Number one is you're relevant because you stayed in front of them very often, just like the videos we talked about. You stay relevant with your customer. Number two is you're building trust with your customer. They want to know that you're out there, that you're strong, that you're viable, and advertising is the best way to do that. You can call your customers and tell them, but when they see that you're spending dollars on advertising, that puts you in a different position in their mind. Kellogg's just did an amazing job back in the Great Depression doing that, and they surged way ahead of CW Post. I can name several companies that did this. So Procter & Gamble made a name for themselves, literally made a name for themselves during the Great Depression by sponsoring radio plays and radio dramas. They're now called soap operas.
Yeah, wow.
Procter & Gamble. Wow. That's where they started that whole deal. So you're building trust with your customer. The last thing I would say, and this is probably the most important thing, if you advertise, no matter where you advertise, and by the way, I would say this real quickly, traditional advertising is still viable. I don't think it ever went away. people were talking about the death of traditional. No, it's still very viable. There's still traffic, not as much traffic. There's still radio listeners, maybe not as many radio listeners, but there's still a lot of viability because that core audience is really, really loyal.
Right.
And so they're really there, and there is a value there. And those radio stations and billboard companies, they will work with you based on the number of audience that you're reaching.
That's very
now.
good. That's very
They're
good.
going to make it up to you on the back end. I've talked to almost every one of the media outlets in Baton Rouge. Those guys are ready to help you, and they're going to take into consideration that their audience has shrunk. They know that. They're not going to try to tell you it's not.
Sure.
They want to help you get your message out to your public. It's very important that we do. And the last thing I'll say that I mentioned is probably the most important thing is there has never been a better time to say thank you to your customers.
Absolutely.
Than right now.
Absolutely.
It means more now when you say thank you than it did a month ago.
Right. And I will tell you this, guys, and let me segue to finishing the show. This is really the connecting level that David just said. Thank you to your clients. Thank you, your team members, your employees, your partners. Look, right now is a great time to rebuild, reshape, reconnect, and reestablish. Okay? Connect with the people.
I think that if we can say one thing, that would be it.
That's right. Reconnect broken relationships.
You've got to say it. And not just say, hey, thank you. Go ahead, John.
Go ahead, John.
Well, I was just saying, and I'll have one more piece of that. In this time where there's a lot of fear of the unknown, what's going to happen, it's easy for a business owner to start doubting their value to their customers.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Because there's kind of a logic as to how they're going to conclude to stop paying you.
That's right.
How they're going to come to that. And so you can create a lot of self-doubt unnecessarily, thinking that you're going to be the first thing to go.
Right.
Whereas if you assume their loyalty, you send all the right messages, and if they didn't like you, you wouldn't be there to begin with.
That's correct. That's correct.
So let me give you
last thoughts. We got to wind this down. Go ahead.
Real practical tip. If you're thinking about marketing during this time, which I think is a really good idea if you're in a position to do so, you may not want to spend your entire ad budget because there's a mystery about what's coming. But think about this: reduce your ad budget, that's fine, but take a portion of it, allocate that toward a very specific kind of thank you that you can do for your clients. Buy them something, do something for them that's meaningful, that has thought behind it, that you can reestablish and keep that relationship strong for the future. Believe me, it will pay huge dividends when we come through this on the other side.
Good. All right, let's go ahead and sign off. All of you attending, thank you very much. Please send us additional questions to any one of us. Let's go around the room real quickly and give them our email addresses. John, start us with your emails and your phone number.
John, John, John at John P. Sherk. It's SHERK.com. And my phone number is 601-596-7112. Call or text me anytime.
Okay. David.
D-Day at thedaygroup.com. D-Day at thedaygroup.com. 907-5977.
Okay. Mine, Maurice Velasquez, Team Real World. Maurice at teamrealworld.com. You can reach us at 225-772-4357 or directly to me at 225-505-2823. All right. Guys, thank you very much for joining us. All of you participating, listening, everybody behind the scenes, the incredible work that all of our teams put together to make this show a real success. We're going to get back to you and let you know when our next one's going to be. Fill out your survey, send it back to us, keep us working. Don't forget your selfie. Send it to hashtag 4 in a forum or text it to me at 225-505-2823. On behalf of David, Maurice, John, and Brian, I'm Maurice Velasquez, and thank you guys for joining us. 4 in a forum. All right, watch what you say. The mic's still live, okay? Don't say anything dumb. Turn the music run out.
It's too late.
Too late.
I just said a lot of things dumb.